Hi, everybody, and welcome to the 25th San Francisco Independent Film Festival. The festival will take place on February 2nd to 12th at the Roxy Theater, as well as digitally in your computer screen. So thank you for joining us. We are joined from the Stories from Around the Bay program filmmakers. This program is online, as well as will be screening on Saturday, February 4th. At 12 p.m. So I hope that you can come out and join us there as well. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for sharing your films with our awesome audience. We're so excited to have you. Just to kick things off, I'm going to go around the virtual room and ask you to introduce yourself. And then we'll kind of dive into your films and kind of how they came to be. So to start off, let's talk about the film Last Call. We are joined by Drew. Hi, Drew. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, thank you so much for showing the film.
And we have the filmmakers from The Girl That Got Away. If you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, yeah. You want to go first, Lauren?
Sure, I'm Lauren. I co-directed The Girl That Got Away.
And I'm Effie, and I co-directed The Girl That Got Away.
We should just say it at the same time.
Yeah, we'll sync it up. Take two. And then we have the filmmakers from Las Muralistas.
Yeah, hey, my name is Maisa. I was one of the producers on Las Muralistas, and I worked with my wonderful colleague, Claudia.
And I'm Claudia, and I was the editor of Las Muralistas.
Awesome. And then we're joined with the filmmaker from My Aura.
Hello, I'm Marcus, and I created My Aura.
Welcome. And we have a filmmaker from Why More Black Americans Strike Capoeira.
Hey, my name is Chinwe. I was a producer, writer, director on it with my team at KQED.
Amazing. And Chinwe, we're going to actually stay with you. Can you talk about the genesis of your film? How did it come to be?
Yeah, so it's actually, I think, a funny story. So I think when I started with KQED, it was in 2020, and it was around the time I had started training capoeira. And I just had this idea, hey, let's, do an episode for our series on capoeira. And then the pandemic happened, and a lot of things happened in 2020. And then came 2022, I brought up the idea again. My school was going to Brazil for the summer to train with our main school's headquarters down there. So we quickly kind of got this idea together, like, let's go shoot this episode about capoeira, this Afro-Brazilian martial art that not many people actually know about, that has such a deep history, such a rooted history in the United States, specifically the Bay Area, and even more rooted in Brazil. And the show we work on typically showcases different dance forms across the country, and capoeira is typically known as like a fight disguised as a dance, or a dance disguised as a fight. But we really wanted to go into what it is, the culture behind it, explore it as kind of like this dance martial art, but get deeper and beyond kind of the martial arts facet of it, that it's a culture all unto itself, and that it is if you participate in it, it can even be a transcendent, art form for you. It's not just the, kind of this watered down definition that people have for it. It's much more deeper than that. So we really wanted to explore that. And was very lucky that, I was already going to Brazil, so I could, see it in its original context and, bring that to audiences in the Bay.
It's so wonderful. Thank you. I love when those things come together, or you have like a confluence of a moment and you're able to grab it and capture it and bring that story. So thank you so much.
Yeah, we had
for
like
sharing
2.5
that.
weeks, 3 weeks maybe to pull it all together. So I'm happy that it came out the way that it did. We're really, really proud of it. I think the Caporistas that were part of our episodes were really happy and really proud that that this art form that they love so much, that they've grown up with, that, you know, it's in their life blood, it's in their cultural blood, could be shared in this way. So we were incredibly proud.
Especially within the Bay Area context too. I
Especially
think
within the Bay Area
brings
context.
such a richness to it. So thank
Exactly.
you so much.
Thank you.
Marcus, hi. Can you talk about the genesis of My Aura and how you brought it together and told this story?
Yeah, I created this film, or the majority of it, when I was a freshman in high school, and I had struggled with epilepsy for a long time, and it took me a really long time for me to accept like who I was with epilepsy, because a lot of people just, they wouldn't understand it, or I couldn't tell anybody. And so an aura in a seizure is a lot of color, a lot of sound right before a seizure happens. And so when I was making this film when I was a freshman, I just wanted to draw a bunch of things. So I went to a window in my house and just painted 400 frames on it to make a little bit of an animation. And I kind of sat on the footage for 2 years, and now I'm a junior in high school, and I released it. And this is just kind of from my perspective of what a seizure is. And it's just kind of a cool way to show a seizure.
It's so interesting to find a way to use art to interpret something that not everybody will, right? Like to actually bring like a visualization to it, I think is a really artful. So thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm so glad that you're engaging with filmmaking and finding other ways to kind of work through a life experience. So thank you so much, Marcus, for being with us. See, I was saying before we started recording the Q&A, when I was rewatching Las Muralistas this morning, I was so homesick. For my time, I lived in the Mission District for 15 years before I moved to LA. And it brought a tear to my eye. I'm so happy that the city has this art to share, and that there's this collective of creators that come together to, you know, make the Mission District and much of San Francisco really what it is. So thank you so much for highlighting that. Claudia, how about we kick it off with you? Can you speak to how the film came together?
Well, I came a little later. I'm the editor, so I was very happy to work with Javier, who is the director of the film, who is a filmmaker from Guatemala that kind of like we grew up as filmmakers also here in the Mission parallel. So it was the first time we finally worked together, and it was a pleasure because it's also something that, as you say, like living here in the Mission District is something that you're surrounded by, and just listening to these beautiful interviews that Mais and Javier and the whole team did of these badass women that kind of like broke with many rules and many things and kind of like made it happen here in the Mission. It was really inspiring. They're just like incredibly strong and badass, and yeah, it was so inspiring to kind of like also put together a film that goes through different generations and the legacy of the very first women that kind of like went and kind of like broke with everything, and how that had evolved here in this part of the world where like we're really surrounded by these colors and these stories everywhere. So I think Maisa can also talk more about how it came out, like how it started.
Yeah.
And what made you all come up with this and get to highlight the story? Like, what was the genesis of it?
Yeah, so I'm actually a producer. I work with SF MoMA, and so the way that we kind of found ourselves in this space of storytelling was as as guests, first and foremost, in the space, as a museum that hasn't always historically kind of been at the forefront of inclusivity as it relates to artist communities in our area, particularly when those artist communities are Black and Brown folks. And so it was an opportunity for the museum in taking on a project called Proyecto Mission Murals to do some visual storytelling. And so the project actually exists on a website, and it is bigger than just the film. I was tasked with helping produce the film, and that's kind of how I ended up kind of working in partnership with Claudia and Javier on this project. And we landed on focusing on the story of Femme Muralist specifically, because it was a story that hadn't been told yet. And in speaking to our community of advisors and artists in the community, we kind of got the go ahead to pursue that line of storytelling and to focus. As we all know, as short documentary filmmakers, you have to be really specific and really kind of intentional about where you're focusing your storytelling. And that's where we decided to focus ours as it relates to the history of the Mission Muralismo movement. And so that's kind of how we landed where we did. And as Claudia said, it presented us with the opportunity to speak to some really, really incredible and incredibly impactful artists in the community. And we're all better for it. Like, I felt like I learned so much and gained a deeper appreciation for what it really looks like, and understanding for what it really looks like to support artist communities and to advocate for creating space and maintaining space in our neighborhoods and communities for these artist communities to continue shaping culture, the culture that people flock here for. And so anyway, just it was an opportunity to kind of keep that at the forefront of my mind as a museum worker, is something incredibly important. So
yes, that's so important. It's so beautifully said. So thank you so much. And I mean, just, the festival's taking place in the Mission District. The Mission District is so special because of these artist collaborators. And it's the thing that I think as we continue to move past, or not past, but within this world of gentrification, specifically within the Mission, the Mission wouldn't be what it was without these women and without these collectives. So thank you so much for preserving that story.
Yeah.
Also, just for our audience who just watched it, right, towards the end when you have the women's building, and you just see how grand and beautifully captured the film was. It just does such a great job of highlighting how beautiful the artwork really is. Because sometimes you're walking to the store, you're rushing down the street, you don't always have the chance to really fully appreciate it. And the film just really highlights how beautiful the art is there. Thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, for showing it. It's amazing.
Yeah, I'm so happy to show it in the Mission District too. So good. Up next, we have the filmmakers from the film The Girl That Got Away, which telling how Angel's story is just so moving and compelling. So thank you both so much for bringing this to us. It feels like a gift getting to share this narrative. Lauren, would you like to kick it off and talk about the film?
Sure. Thanks so much for screening it. We're so excited. It's been a long journey for us. It's been maybe 3 years filming off and on, and really hard to finish. And it's about Angel. We got hired by Life Elder Care which is it's an aging services agency in Alameda County, to make a tutorial. And Angel was one of the actors who responded to a Craigslist ad to be an actor in our tutorial. And it was to basically train workers at residential care facilities to be more respectful to LGBTQ elders. And Effie was actually met her for the first time. That's kind of the sweetest part of the story, I think.
Yeah, it was, so we were looking for a trans female actress an elder. We needed somebody very specific for one of the dramatizations. And so we put out an ad. I mean, it's so specific. And I was like, let's just put out an ad on Craigslist and see what happens. And we got one person who responded, somebody named Jose. And this is back when Mission Pi existed.
Mhm.
I knew that was going to get you. I mean, come on. And so I said, all right, well, let's meet at Mission Pi. I mean, it was like, I'm not going to audition this person. I just want to meet this person, Jose. And this just adorable human being walks in, little goatee, and looks really, really nervous. And I'm like, hi, I'm Effie, and don't be nervous. There's nothing to be nervous. We're just sitting to chat. And then suddenly Jose tells me that she identifies as Angel, and that she had never come out. And so she starts bawling in Mission Pi. And I, of course, I'm just like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. This is not, and I was like, are you really interested in this part? This would be coming out in a way. And she's like, no, this is like the part that I've been waiting for. So she's an actor in San Francisco, I should mention. And 64, I think at the time, maybe. I think she was in her early 60s. And so we hired her and we became friends very quickly. And then she said, I really want to come out. And this really inspired me to do this. And I think Lauren and I thought about the possibility of making a documentary about her coming out process. And it was hard to actually ask about this. It's so sensitive. But interestingly enough, I mean, I think it really, because Angel is she is an actor, she really is. And she just really responds to the camera. And she was so great in our dramatization. And she said she just got really inspired by this whole process, and that it wasn't going to intimidate her, it was actually going to help her. And so we were like, well, let's just try this, we'll see what happens. And it was a journey. It was a journey, and an amazing journey. But I mean, it was just and I think the film, and it's a relatively short film, but it really, I think it just shows just how challenging that process can be, especially for a trans elder of color.
Mm.
And how long from when you met, how long ago did you meet Angel?
We met her, we started filming with her in 2017, but we did the tutorial 2016. And, the thing that, I mean, you'll see it, it's not her coming out story is a story of baby steps, and doing what she can, with a lot of challenges. And so that's what the movie was going to be. Longer, we had a lot of scenes, and then we just realized this is actually really a focused, kind of still story in a way of baby steps, maybe just a couple, that is progress, but it's towards, accepting yourself, but it's not this big dramatic thing. But those baby steps in themselves were really dramatic for her, and it was a really challenging, great experience that I'm just so glad that we finished. And she said, thanks for my grand story. She texted us, which is really sweet, because she's, I think, health-wise struggling a little, and we're in touch, and I think she's glad to see something come to completion. I don't know what else to say, but she's great.
She's so gorgeous. I love her so much, and thank you so much for allowing us to peek inside of her life, because she's just really a special person, and it really comes through in your filmmaking. It's a really, really gorgeous story to share. And Angel, if you're watching, thank you so much. We love you so much. It's such a beautiful, courageous thing that she did too. allow us to come on this journey with her. So thank you both so much for joining us and sharing the film. And last but not least, last call, which is such a beautiful love letter to kind of shrinking queer spaces within the Bay Area. Hi, Drew. Can you speak to your film?
Hey, yeah, thank you again so much for screening it. It's a kind of a strange little film, but so I recently graduated from the documentary MFA program at Stanford, and so this was the first film that I made there, and the kind of constraints that we were given for that film were we had like 5 rolls of black and white 16mm reversal film and non-sync sound, and so total it was like less than 15 minutes of footage. And I was just thinking a lot. I had just moved from Chicago to the Bay Area for school, and I was thinking a lot about, this was in like the summer of 2020, and I was just thinking about like all of these queer clubs in Chicago that had meant a lot to me, and just wondering if they would be there when I got back. And I think, the Stud funeral was happening around the same time. I watched the live stream of it and just really resonated with it. And also I think was just thinking about how these spaces have like really long storied histories of like precarious survival even before the pandemic. And, the Stud almost closed, I think in 2016, and then was, bought by the workers and became, the first worker-owned nightclub in the US. So yeah, it was, just wanted to make a film about those kinds of spaces, and was lucky to work with a lot of amazing, mostly drag performers in the scene around the city who, kind of recommended me to look at these other spaces, and ended up being able to work with Beverly, the performer in the film, who had actually performed at all 3 of the bars. And yeah, we decided to kind of recreate one of her early drag performances in this empty space, and kind of think of it as a specter of the past, but also of the future.
Mm.
Well, it's just beautiful. So many of these stories just make me realize like how special the Bay Area is. I've lived in a few other places, but it's really such a unique confluence of people and cultures. And I love this program because I think it really highlights the different perspectives that we all go through. So thank you all so much for joining us. That's all the time we have today. And thank you to our wonderful audience. Tell your friends, come check out Indie Fest. And if you can, come see the screening in person. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.